At about 3 p.m., goats strayed into the compound of a man in Chuka. 21 hours later, the goats were alive, but 4 people, including the area chief, had been brutally murdered. They were killed because of the decision made by the goats. Murder Tips, 21 hours of carnage, starts now. The 30th day of April 2019 was a very violent day in the small Kamaindi location of Chuka in Tharaka Nithi County. The hours that followed proved to be even more bloody and chaotic. It was no laughing matter. The attention of the National Police Service was directed to the small little known location after the murder of the local chief, a police commander, and 2 other people.
Iko sababu Mungu aliumba hasira. Lakini binadamu pia wewe unafaa kujua kwamba wakati umekasirika kuna vitu ambaye hufai kuendelea kufanya kwa sababu utafanya vituko wakati umekasirika. Ndio sababu Kiswahili alisema hasira ni nini? Hasara kubwa sana. Kwa sababu saa hii kulikuwa na hasira, chifu wetu ameenda na wale walikuwa nafikiria wako mbele wanaweza fungwa kifungo ya miaka. Unawacha bibi yako hapa na watoto, unafungwa bure tu. Kitu ungeenda nyumbani uvumilie ukae kidogo masaa 2. Hata ungeweza saa hiyo after 2 hours ungekuwa naona mafikira niko tofauti. Hata chief ungekuwa naona huyu nimemsamea. Lakini kwa sababu walienda wakiwa na hasira. Nasema ni hasira kwa sababu kama ilikuwa tu ile unajilipishia kisasi huwa ingetosha. Lakini kuwa na kuchoma ni kuonyesha niko na hasira.
This is Murder Tips, revisiting the killing of the Kamaindi location chief and the story of the 9 people behind it. At his home, to the farthest end of the fence, is a grave that reminds residents and family here of that day. A moment of madness where close to about 12 people killed the man who manned their village. Here lies the 52-year-old man who strived to bring sanity and harmony in Kamaindi. Here lies the government official who loved agriculture. Here lies the man who was killed and his body set on fire. For many years, Japheth Majau Mukengu knew this compound as his office and saw the residents. Local disputes were resolved here. Major conflicts in the community, but mostly about land boundaries, were dealt with by the local chief. But it is one of those land conflicts that led to his own death. The signage at his office is fading, but it has refused to fade with it the memories of the local administrator taken out by his own community. It was just as hot as today on the fateful Tuesday when madness ran through the small village, resulting in the murders of 4 people.
In this matter,
Justice Lucy Gitari called the 5-year trial a sad case. The murder of Chief Mukengu happened here in the compound of his elder brother, Josephat Gikware Mukengu.
Siku ile ya sifu aliuawa, mimi ndio nilikuwa nakuja kuuawa.
Between 1 and 2 p.m. on the material day, Gikware was at his home. He recalls the events with utmost clarity, facing in the very direction that the killers of his brother emerged from.
Mbuzi ziliingia kwa shamba yangu pale, nalima na maji, alafu nikazitoa mara 3. Nikaita chief nikaita sub chief akuje turudishie mwenye hiyo mbuzi zake. Akaniambia ako Chuka kupeleka mtoto yake shule. Alafu ndio nikaita chief. Sivyo kaniuliza mbuzi ni ngapi, nikamwambia ni 4. Akaniambia tafuta sub area apeleke hiyo mbuzi kwa mwenyewe, tutakuja kuangalia hiyo maneno jioni. Sasa wakati chief alikuja, alikuta tayari wamepanga mipango ya kuniua mimi. Chief akakuja kusuia, walikuwa pale kwa ile nyumba. Akakuja akawaambia msiingie nyumba ya mtu, ni kinyume ya sheria.
The goats belonged to Julius Mburu Kinanga. The innocent animals had strayed into Gikware's farm where the pastures were greener. By 6 p.m., the chief had already arrived at his brother's homestead. With the goats back to the owner, he had no case to solve. But in a few minutes, Julius Mburu Kinanga and his wife began screaming about the theft of their goats. Eliud Mushiri, the chief's son, was among many people who heard the screaming.
When noise came from my neighbor, from my uncle's family, the first person to try to call was my late mother. So I tried to call him, and the phone never went through. It was off. The second person was my cousin, who is now the son to my uncle's home where the noise was coming from. His phone also could not go through.
Julius Mburu had organized a few people and confronted Gikware and the chief.
Ndio mtu moja ule sitatanja jina akamugonga mawe ya kichwa. Akasunguka, akauliza kwani ni mbaya ilikuwa. Ndio wengine walimsingira na panga, wakaenda kwa ile kamba unaona pale imewekwa nguo, akashika hiyo kamba. Wale wanawake walikuwa pande ile wakamsuia na kumpiga na miti sana. Hao wengine wakamkamata, wakamkatakata. Wakati alifika hapa kwa hiyo karibu hiyo miti, huyu mmoja akasema, ule alikuwa mwenye mbuzi akasema, ako na nguvu sana, kateni yeye mguu. Hapo ndio alikatua mguu, akuja kaanguka hapa.
Gikware had told the court that it was the 7th accused person, Njagi Kibiubi, who was the first to hit the chief with a stone. That name Kibiubi is very important. Remember it. When the chief panicked and asked whether it was now a fight, the 6th accused person, Julius Njeru Kimenye, cut the chief on the back with a panga. And as the chief tried to run away, he was prevented by Leah Modoni Ngige. And then the bloodbath began. Mr. Gikware's wife, who murder tips did not find at home, told the court she's the one who locked her husband in the house. After all, if the squabble was about goats, then it is him they wanted. And while inside the house, the former Minister of Agriculture official watched the killing and maiming in great detail from this window.
Bibi yangu akatoka hapo, alikuwa anasimama hapo karibu huyu hako. Akakimbia akakuja kumuuliza hapa, kwa nini mumamalisha yeye?
There was so much violence on that day. From the narration, and as you will learn shortly, Gikware and his wife were candidates of death. In a movie-like happening, Gikware, his wife and daughter were dodging death, literally crossing rivers, valleys and hills to stay alive. At this time, no one knew where the other was.
Mustakiwa number 1 ambaye ni Njeru Mtebua alimukata mara 2. Akaanguka chini. Bibi yangu sasa akaanguka chini. Huyu mstakiwa number 1 ndio bibi yangu atorokea hapa. Akaenda wachachivu akiwa na damu nyingi sana. Na mimi wakati nilimeona sasa sitamsaidia, imefungiwa na nje na ndani. Nilitoka kwa hiyo mlango, nikatoka kwa hiyo mlango ya nyuma, nikakimbia wa kijana yangu kwa hii nyumba mmepakisa hapo, mmewasa hapo Mwiti. Kwani nikamwambia hai, watu wamekuja wamekatakata chifu, wamemuua. Kwa maana wakati wanamuua na mimi nilikuwa kwa hiyo dirisha hiyo, ilikuwa kwa hiyo naangalia. Hata utaenda hapo uangalia hapa bila ulikuwa na mchezea uone ni kitu ilikuwa wazi. Sasa ndio nilikimbia kwa hiyo kijana yangu. Ukimbia kwa hiyo kijana yangu, kuna mtu alikuwa hapo na sasa yakamatwa hapo kwa kona. Taki kumtanja jina kwa bila yakamatwa. Akasema ndio huyu amekimbia. Huyu ndiye angefanya hata niuawe. Ndio huyu amekimbia. Na mimi nikasema kwa vile sina nguvu ya kukimbia, sitarundi mpaka wa kijana yangu. Hawa mmoja huyu amefungwa, kijana anaitwa Njagi Kibiubi. Alikimbizana mimi na mawe nikaingia kwa fence ya kijana, ilikuwa kubwa ya Ndaro 3 kama hii mnaingilia hapo. Mawe ilikuwa inagonga kwa hiyo miti. Kijana yangu atoka na misari. Asema wako wapi? Wakatoroka, asema ako na misare, Mwiti ako na misare.
Wakati nilifika nyumbani kwa scene, mahali mama yangu alikuwa amelazwa akiwa amekufa. Askari waliweza kuokota mapanga, waliweza kuokota miti ingine, chuma zile ambazo zilitumika kumuua. So panga, kulikuwa na panga mingi, kulikuwa na chuma mingi, na alikuwa amelazwa na amechomwa. Bando moshi ilikuwa imetoka. Moshi ilikuwa bando inatoka kwa nguo. Alikuwa amekatakatwa. Alikuwa amekatakatwa mara kadhaa. Because si ati aliuawa na mtu mmoja. So kuna yule alikuwa anakata nyuma, kuna wakukata mbele, kuna wakukata kichwa, kuna wakukata mguu. Sasa ukiangalia mwili vile ilikuwa imekatakatwa, haikuwa hali nzuri.
In a matter of minutes, the police command center in Nairobi was breathing fire right at the neck of the police division in Tharaka Nithi. The entire police department from Chuka would then drive down to Kamaindi location.
Magari ilikuwa magari karibu 10 ya mashia indi na OCS. Sasa ndio waliangalia mwili wamechoma. Hapa alichomwa hapo. Ndio sasa asubuhi utulira hapa sote pamoja na OCS. Hapa kwangu hapa kwa hiyo kiti tunaongea tu. Sasa ndio walisema wakati saa 12 hivi, wasema wacha tuende tuwachake wale wako karibu. Mr. Kenywa wakaenda hivi na sisi tukaenda hivi.
Ni watu tumeishi na wao, tumezaliwa pamoja. Wao ni baba zetu wametuzaa. Leo unashindwa hii shetani imetoka wapi? Kwa mtu mnakula na yeye sahani moja, the following day ndiye amekugeuka amekufanyia hivi. Na hujamkosea. So hii katuweka waziwazi. Mpaka saa hii wale watoto walikuwa pale kwa ile mboma, watoto wandogo, hiyo siku saa hii wakiona villager, hata kama amekuja kuomba kasukari hivi ama kachumvi, they run.
Things were bad, not just in Kamaindi, but kilometers away in Embu. The OCS and several police officers were in hot pursuit to bring to book the killers of the chief. Some of them had escaped to Embu, including a David Ikaba. And to identify him and locate his place of work, the OCS went with Daniel Mwiti, Josephat Mukengu's son.
One of those that were actively involved in that case or in that murdering had ran away, went hiding somewhere in Oweri. So it was being pursued that Wednesday. That is when now OCS also was murdered.
The OCS was leading the team of 12 police officers in arresting David Ikaba at his workplace in Embu. Ikaba was a butcher, and his attempted arrest would result in another bloodbath. Ikaba came out with his workers carrying axes and sticks, obstructing the arrest and causing more chaos. In the ensuing melee, the butcher's workers descended on Mwiti. The OCS was killed by David Ikaba. Ikaba was then shot dead by police. In a matter of seconds, 3 more people were dead. Josephat's son, Mwiti, Kinywangure, the OCS, and David Ikaba, the dreaded killer and son of yet another murderer. The literal meaning of like father, like son.
Aliua hapa akakimbilia kwa biashara yake wapi? Huko Oweri, akakimbilia biashara yake huko, ndio anafanya biashara. So askari wasema kwa sababu hajui sura yake, wachukue informo moja waende waonye. Kwenda kule aliwafagia wote.
Tukiwa Kajuki tukaambiwa OCS ameuawa na Mwiti ameuawa. Ala, na huyu kijana alikuwa hapa Sasa tulisikia likatwa panga ya pande hii mara ikatokea pande hiyo, na OCS ukatwa na Mwiti, ukatwa na mtu. Mwiti ni kupigwa tu, alipigwa na watu. Bibi ya huyu kijana akatambua Mwiti, akasema huyu namjua, ni Mwiti uwa yeye, ndio akauawa na watu na kupigwa. Sasa tukasikia wameuawa. Unaona sasa, hatukuwa tumetoka Kajuki, hata statement hatukuwa tunamaliza kuandika.
In just 21 hours, the chief, the OCS, an informer, and a prime suspect were dead. Too much blood, too much violence had visited the Kamaindi area. Under pressure to arrest the growing insanity, the General Service Unit was dispatched to the small village to restore order. The National Police Command was talking tough, and so the local police staff.
You cannot kill a human being like a chicken and you be let go like that. So we expect harsh action against the community who did this, or against anyone found to have done this.
But the killing of the chief and his nephew appears to have been a bottled-up vendetta against the local administrator. When we come back, the context. Kamaindi location is in Igambangombe sub-county, Tharaka Nithi County, and about 30 kilometers from Chuka town, and approximately 5 kilometers from the county's Kadhuana headquarters. Kamaindi, which means a place of many bones in the local language, is a semi-arid area bordering Embu East sub-county in Embu County and is inhabited by speakers of Tharaka and Mbeere. Most of the locals earn their livelihood from small-scale farming and rearing livestock. By many accounts of villagers, the brutal killings were sparked by a long-running land dispute between the chief, his brothers Gikware and Njoka Mukengu, and their neighbors.
All this chaos is as a result of on land disputes. So in the absence of my dad, then my mom and his brother would be in a position to actually fight for the property. So that's why they were incriminated.
Before the death of the chief, the bone of contention for the villagers of Kamaindi was the death of a villager and the fight to control the precious waters of River Dhushi. waters which residents had earlier accused the slain chief's brother of diverting. Allegations flew that in December 2018, 4 months earlier, Gikware and his sons had warned villagers against fetching water or watering their animals at a certain point of this river, and subsequently they closed the road leading to the river. Vehemently refuting those claims, one of Gikware's sons, Simon Moreithi, took us down to where it all began, wondering how one could close down a flowing river. Do you remember that Njagi Kibiuibe name that I asked you to take note of? This is the point you remember it. On December 12, 2018, one villager, Gitonga Kibiuibe, went missing after he made his daily sojourn to the river with his animals, generating more suspicion and seething hatred between the villagers and the chief. It was said he disappeared right at the place of the river where Gikware and his sons had fenced off. The locals held demonstrations, and the Igamba Ng'ombe deputy county commissioner visited the village and held a peace meeting, but nothing changed. After Kibiuibe's disappearance, calm was restored. Sanity held until April 4th, 2019, when the remains believed to be Kibiuibe's were found in the river. This reigniting the cloud of suspicion between the villagers and the chief's family. Villagers were accusing them of murder.
This local was missing. They used him as an advantage because he was a male adult. And they went ahead, I don't know where they got some bones, called the media. And what I think from my side, they dumped them in water, then called the media and pretended that the bones were there. That was 3 months after the guy went missing. And from what I understand, it's like now the locals, they were being advised by somebody who was totally against the area chief. Because the locals I know there, they wouldn't have that kind of a thinking, to find some bones somewhere, bring them near the river, and then try accusing somebody from the chief's family that has been, that is the one now who is responsible of whatever has been found in the water. So somebody was behind it and was really advising these locals, those that were now demonstrating and shouting, saying the area chief is defending the family. One of his close family friend, one of his close family member is the one who is responsible for this, for whatever has been found in the river as the human remains, that is the bones.
On April 25th, 2019, the day before Kibiuibe's burial, villagers held another protest demanding justice for the deceased's family. With no evidence to back their suspicion, no suspect was arrested, but the seething anger grew. It erupted on the fateful Tuesday, April 30th, when the chief's brother detained a herd of goats belonging to Kibiuibe's family. Here is where you need to understand why the Kibiuibe name is important and why Njagi Kibiuibe is among the chief's killers. Now take note of the dates and look at the patterns. On December 12th, Kibiuibe goes missing. On April 4th, Kibiuibe's remains are found in the river. On April 25th, demos are held in Kamaindi. On April 26th, Gitonga Kibiuibe is buried. And on April 30th, just 3 days later, the chief is killed and burnt. With this development, it was clear that the villagers had a problem with the chief's family. This now explains why Mr. Gikware says,
Mimi ndio nilikuwa nakuja kuuawa.
After 3 years on trial, the Lady Justice Lucy Gitari Court put 9 accused persons on their defense. These were 70-year-old Gerard Njeru Mibua, 70-year-old Julius Mburu Kenanga, Gerald's wife, 65-year-old Cecilia Katora, 64-year-old John Nthega Kirema, his wife, 52-year-old Leah Modhoni Ngige, Nthika's brother, 65-year-old Julius Njeru Kemenye, 44-year-old Jornad Njagi Kibuibi, 68-year-old JDL Monywa Morogu, and 41-year-old Tom Kinywa Njoka. The court had found that the 9 had a case to answer in the murder of the chief.
This action must therefore be condemned in the strongest.
They all denied being at the scene of the gruesome murder, but it is the evidence of 9 witnesses called by the prosecution that would find them guilty as charged.
And what is pending before this court is the sentencing of the accused persons.
The prosecution's key witness was Josephat Gikware, the chief's brother, who watched the entire unfolding from this window. Gikware's wife, who was prosecution witness number 4, and their daughter, who was in this kitchen at the time of the deadly violence, she testified as witness number 5. Lady Justice Lucy Gitari rejected the accused's defense that these witnesses were family members and therefore they were bound to mislead and were indeed misleading the court. The judge ruled that if they saw, then they did. And in any case, she said, they were not the only eyewitnesses. After all, prosecution witness number 3, John Mwindu Karangu, told the court that he was a church leader and had attended a church meeting on the day of the killing. The meeting ended at about 5:30 p.m. and that he took some 2 bursary forms to the chief's office. He did not find him, so he proceeded to the chief's home. But before he got there, he heard some noise from Gikware's home where he saw the chief talking to about 12 people. Murder Tapes would like you to take note that John Mwindu Karangu saw the chief with his own eyes between 5:40 p.m. and 6 p.m. That witness went further to say that he saw all the accused people beat up the chief, and then the 9th accused person, Tom Kinywa Njoka, set the administrator's body on fire. Eliud Mushiri Majau, in his testimony, said it was about 6 p.m. when he heard the noises from his uncle's place. Prosecution witness number 4, Roslyn Nguru, who happens to be the wife of Gikware, says in her testimony that after being injured, she rushed to the home of the assistant chief and that together they returned to the scene of the crime at 7 p.m. and found policemen at home. Now, from the testimonies of the 9 prosecution witnesses, we see that the chief was killed between 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. The court places that time at 6:20 p.m. Now here is the problem. John Nthega Kirema. John Nthega Kirema, he is a problem because he was the 3rd accused person. Nthega Kirema worked for the Teachers Service Commission as human resources personnel. Nthega Kirema told the Lucy Gitari Court that on the material day, he woke up and went to his office in Upper Hill, Nairobi. He arrived there at 7:40 a.m. and signed out of the premises at 4:59 p.m. The human resource official says he went to his drinking joint, made merry and met some friends before going to his Dandora Phase 5 home at about 9 p.m. It was late in the night when his wife, Leah Modhoni Ngige, the 5th accused, called him, reporting that she was at Chuka police station, accused of murder, the murder of the chief. couple's daughter, Sonia Murugi, at the time a young unemployed graduate, says she lived with the father in Dandora and was there on the night of the stressful phone call.
I remember that night, my dad came home at around 9 p.m. We ate supper as usual, then went to bed. So in the midnight, I hear my dad's phone calling. Then once he's done with the conversation, he told me that my mom has been arrested. So I was really shocked because I didn't know anything that had happened or when my mom could have been arrested. So he told me the following day he was going to send me to Chuka to go and follow up and find out my mom was arrested and maybe what is happening. So the following day, which was 1st of May, I left from Nairobi early, went to Chuka. At the police station, I asked to speak to mom, but I was denied access. So I came back to Nairobi and told that I had been denied access. He told me he will go to work the following day, which was now on the 2nd of May, apply for leave, and then go home and handle the situation. But that he never got to do that.
It was John Nthiga's testimony that after the Labor Day celebrations, he proceeded to work on May 2nd to seek time off and attend to the issue surrounding the arrest of his wife. It was during that day that policemen from Nairobi's Capitol Hill police station showed up at the TSC offices and arrested the man, taking him to Chuka to record a statement. He produced in court biometric printouts that showed he was at work on the material day. The TSC employee further produced before court 3 witnesses to corroborate his story. One was his daughter, Sonia Kirema. The other was a TSC officer who manned security and investigations. Then the owner of the headquarters club in Dandora, where the man apparently was drinking that night. When Murder Tapes visited, a lot has changed at the club, including the renovation to allow for more business. But it is the headquarters it was then. Friends still converge for a drink before going home, and Gitonga Kabete is still here. Dickson Gitonga Kabete was defense witness number 11. He told the court and Murder Tapes that he was operating this bar in Dandora Phase 5. That on the day of the murder, he was with John Nthiga until 8:30 p.m. They were having some drinks at this joint, and that Nthiga also passed by the bar at 9:30 a.m. the following day. That is Labor Day, lamenting about the arrest of his wife. All the accused persons denied ever being at the scene of the gruesome murder and arson. They all gave their alibis of the material day. The 9 claimed that they had been framed because of a land dispute they had with Josephat Gikware, the chief's brother. Even the prosecution itself told the court that the murder of the Kamaindu chief had a land dispute written all over it. Land was definitely at the center of the murder. But could it be so serious for someone to frame the other with murder? Justice Lucy Gitari rejected that notion, calling it a mere denial. But for people like Sonia Kirema, it was possible and actually the case.
Well, we have had long-standing disputes, land cases with him. We are not the only people in the community, but then the fact here is that he's not been able to get any favorable outcome that gives him the property rights to our land. So I tend to think maybe he's bitter with my dad because they have managed to obtain favorable rulings that say that the land belongs to my dad because he has refused to vacate even now as we speak. So then with that in mind, the best thing for him to do was to weaponize the legal system against us. And that is what he did. Fabricated a case, lined up witnesses, and somehow there was a miscarriage of justice.
With a dead chief, OCS, suspect, and informer, the court then found that the defense had not shaken the prosecution's case as mounted in any respect. In short, the trial judge was clear. The chief had indeed been killed brutally and someone did it. In the final submissions, the defense counsels told the court that there were contradictions and inconsistencies in the prosecution's case. The defense held that the initial explanation by the 9 accused persons on their whereabouts on the day of the killing was never investigated to determine whether they were proper candidates for prosecution, telling the court that the probe was shoddy and inadequate. At this point, Murder Tips regrets to agree with the defense that the investigation was not conclusive. For the case of the third accused, Nthiga Kirema, for example, the judge ruled that it was possible for the third accused to have left his workplace in Nairobi at 5 p.m. and get to Chuka by 6 p.m., kill the chief, and come back to Nairobi. And because we traveled to the scene of the killing, Murder Tips would like to submit that the trial judge may have erred in fact. The prosecution's case against Nthiga was weak because of crucial errors. Police failed to establish the cell tower he was using when he claimed to have received a phone call from his wife. It was not even established if his wife indeed made that phone call. Police failed to check and submit if Nthiga Kirema's phone ever left Nairobi on April 30. Both prosecution and defense failed to avail CCTV footage of the TSC office in Upper Hill showing that the man was at work on that day. Police further failed to ping his digital movements. Detectives failed to triangulate Nthiga's phone and that of his daughter, who claimed to have been with her father that night. The investigating officers did not look at the whereabouts of Nthiga's witnesses on the night of the murder on whether they were lying or telling the truth. But even as we look at those crucial omissions, you must also take into account the prosecution's big problem. All the accused persons were nailed and placed at the scene of the murder by eyewitnesses. For any reason, if the court acquitted any of the accused persons based on the evidence adduced, that would have greatly shaken the prosecution's case and weakened or even led to the acquittal of all accused persons. In the end, Justice Lucy Gitari concluded that witnesses identified the accused persons. The owner of the goats admitted to mobilizing people, and that the defense was not being truthful. With that, she convicted the 9 under the doctrine of common intention. Murder it was, and murder it remains. The 9 people who brutally killed the chief will each serve 30 years in jail.
On passing sentence, the court has to treat the accused persons in the same way and avoid disparity of sentence. And in any case, in the court judgment, I did find that all the accused persons participated actively in acts that led to the death of the deceased. The accused are joined together like Siamese twins and must suffer the same fate.
The small office where Chief Majau operated from still stands, ants and the strong winds across River Dhushi threatening to bring it down. The new office block he had just constructed is yet to be occupied, and the location is yet to get a new administrator by June of 2024. His family cries of abandonment by the very government he served.
Kama wangenitafuta mahali niko pale, walikuwa wanakuja na wengi wale watu wa polisi wengi hapo nyumbani kwangu hiyo siku. Kwa nini walikuja hiyo siku kwa mtu amekufa na niko hai mimi hawanisaidii? Walikuwa kunisaidia nini? Watume jeshi nyingi pale, walikuwa wengi pale wa nyumbani kwangu, warori. Wakuja hapo kuniona macho, mama tuko pamoja, lakini watoto wangu wote wengi ndio wamendropu shule wengine walikuwa wanafanya masters, wengine walikuwa secondary hawakuperform vizuri, na sasa hawanisaidii. Sasa walikuja kusaidia mtu amekufa, na mimi hawajanisaidia. Sasa serikali yetu, ninauliza swali, niko na swali mbele ya serikali yetu. Mimi sijaridhika hata sasa, sijui ni ofisi gani nitaenda. Naomba waniambie serikali niambie ni ofisi gani itanisimamia kucompensate my husband.
Former Chuka OCS Kinyua Ngure, the man who diligently and personally undertook the responsibility of maintaining order and hunting down the chief's killers only to be killed himself, was buried in Nyeri. When Murder Tapes visited Mwiti's home, the silence at the home spoke to the irreplaceable gap he left behind. For those on the defense, it has been a draining moment.
Because we have to get legal representative, which comes at a cost. And also now that my parents are both in prison, I am the one outside here being the firstborn. I have to take care of the entire family, both in Tharaka-Nithi and also here in Nairobi, so it is really weighing heavily on me. But I have to remain strong, being the firstborn. And also it has really had a psychological effect on all of us. My siblings, especially my youngest brother. He is spiraling even in his education.
For Chief Majau Mukengo, a new land battle pitting one of the jailed persons is threatening to cut away his land, including the grave. For his family, it's justice served.
Ukweli ya kwamba koti imefanya kazi yake, koti imefanya kazi mzuri, lakini ningeomba yule mtu ambaye atakuwa naua atafute wakili amulete koti ya Chuka, kwa sababu koti ya Chuka itakuwa inamfunga miaka kidogo. So ukiwa na miaka 10 unaletwa koti ya Chuka, unafungwa miaka kidogo, kwa sababu muuaji yeyote ambaye amekamatwa na uaji, ambaye jaji anajua ukweli hao watu waliona, anamfunga 30 years. 30 years is a very small thing. Mimi si wachuki, lakini the judgment was fine regardless that hawajafatiwa kifungo ili nastahili. Mtu ameua mtu, na hajaua mtu hivyo, ameua the area chief of the whole location. Sasa mahakama imefunza watu kuna njia ya kuteremsha miaka.
Kwangu naona ni sawa kwa serikali, kama ndivyo wameona ni sawa, lakini hiyo miaka tuseme sasa mtu amefanya hiyo nini kitendo amefanya akiwa miaka 20 afungwa miaka 30, sio ni miaka 50, si amerudi tu akiwa mtu kona nguvu.
30 years is not what I expected. I expected a higher sentence, although some of these people that some of the accused are a bit aged. One of them is around we have 69, 60s and 70s, around 3 or 4 60s and 70s of age. So let me say, even if this is a person who is very aged, it's okay. 30 years might be too much for him or her. But now we cannot just sit and say anybody who is aged should not go through such kind of a length of sentence.
But for people like Sonia Murugi, a fast-rising Nairobi-based actuary, it is the second time she's coming face to face with a miscarriage of justice.
This is something that has dragged for 6 years. It has had emotional, psychological and financial implications to us. Like that is not enough. What if they lie about someone else? I think it should be a lesson to anybody who thinks they can weaponize the legal system because of a personal vendetta against someone. So that can't be done by someone, regardless of their affluence.
Murder Tapes has learned that Ndhiga Kirema and his wife Leah Muthoni have filed an appeal at the Nyeri Court of Appeal seeking to overturn the Chuka High Court judgment. But whatever happens, the bloodbath of the 21 hours in April 2019 may never be forgotten. Good evening.